And we are live. Guys, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Bassin Magazine podcast. Bassin Magazine is the official weekend angler. With us tonight, we have me. I'm your podcaster, Jay Angel. We have Brad from Bassin Magazine. And we have the man, the myth, the legend, Bassmaster Kayak Series Director, Steve Owens. How are you doing tonight, Steve?
I'm good, man. What about you guys?
Steve, it's a pleasure to have you. Steve's been on my podcast several times. Brad and him are old friends.
Yep.
So you've few of Steve's events, Brad?
Yeah, we've actually gone way back. Probably, if you want to call it that, to the beginning of kayak bass fishing tournaments. Organized. Let's go that route.
Yeah, at least to the point where we made people think we were organized, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think we're still trying to figure all that out as we go. Every event, it seems like, but yeah, the anglers are making it easier for sure. We've gotten a lot of good education over the years, so they're when they do their jobs to fish to the best of their abilities, all we do is judge fish and speak. So that's what's important, is those anglers doing a good job, and they are getting better every tournament.
Yeah, and the tournament organizations are learning from the anglers as well. That's why the growth continues to grow, and you got more entries. No matter where you are, it seems every tournament is growing, and not even dependent on what series it is. It's every tournament's growing.
Yeah, somebody mentioned that recently. We were talking about, obviously the Bassmasters Gunnerville was 234 showed up, and the championship, we've got 132 out of 140 qualified anglers. But then, you've got the KBFs are all over 120 something, I think, for their Saturday, which is the most attended portion. And then the Hobies have been like 160 and 200 at Caddo, and our Bass Nation stuff in Tennessee, we've got a 94 average through two events, and grassroots clubs are packed every weekend. And so I felt like we would hit a dip this year, but with the economy and stuff like that. But no, so far it looks all good for us, which I'm happy.
Good. Yeah, that's great.
So what kind of weights did you get? Or I guess you don't have weights. I'm just so used to it. What kind of results did you get at Guntersville?
Guntersville was really good. We had some ridiculously bad weather come through during practice, and a bit of a cold front, but the cold front really didn't zap the water too much, but it muddied it up a lot. So, like the top 5 had really, really strong stringers, and then it was grouped up pretty tightly after that. But I think we had like 1,700 fish almost caught in 2 days. And then, I think the Hobie had like 1,900 in 2 days at Caddo. And, but yeah, we had some really good stringers, Bassmaster Elite Series angler, Greg DePalma took home the win. He won 13 grand. And then we had Ryan Thompson from South Carolina in second. And then Russ Snyder's, no surprise there, in third. So gave away a lot of money, and the event was just amazing. We were out of Scottsboro, Alabama, which is a chamber I've worked with for a lot of years, a tourism group, but Guntersville proper usually gets most of the events. But man, the area is just so amazing. Guntersville is one of the best places you can go in the country for fishing.
With numbers like that, I would tend to agree with you.
Right.
Guntersville, that's a great lake. It's held even the Bassmaster Classic, but there's fish everywhere on that lake. That storm that came in, without saying a name, I know an angler that almost perished. I mean, if you will. He said
goodness.
God had other plans for him that day, but he did lose his kayak, and it rolled, and he lost a bunch of gear and stuff. But even he was on fish, so that lake is just packed, and it's a good lake to have this type of event on.
Yeah, it can handle a lot. Guntersville is unique in that you can spread out a good bit. We had that many anglers, and we had people who didn't see another kayak, and then, the championship being on Lake Chickamauga. Lake Chickamauga doesn't spread out as much, but it's a very, very long lake. So we're pretty happy about getting that one off the ground there. I published the payout today. That graphic's available. So we're pretty happy about that one. So we'll fish Lake Chickamauga. And then the Classic's being held in Knoxville. So we'll fish Wednesday, Thursday, and then the top 10 will go Friday, and they'll get to be on the Bassmaster Classic stage. So
way cool. We had Eric Siddiqui after he won last year on our show.
Sure.
Yeah, I like Eric. What's the payout? What's first place going to take home besides having that honor and that trophy and the bragging rights for the year?
I think the way I've got it, just from memory, the top 5, first place is 20 grand, second place is 8, third is 4 grand, fourth place is, I'm going to misspeak, I think something like 2,400, and then fifth is 18 or something like that. But first place is 20,000.
Just general idea, but yeah, thanks. Cool. That's a great payout for a champion. That's a great payout for any place. Actually, you can't be mad at second for sure.
No. And that was something we did this year. We revamped the whole series. We went to 2-day events. Instead of a certain percentage of the field, we went to the top 5 anglers per event qualify for a championship. And then on the payout, which is, Bassmaster across the board pays 30 places. And in kayaking, anglers need something in return, even if they're not in the top money winners. So we felt like, the 10%'s kind of been industry standard on our side of it. And so we did some things and looked at the paying the 10% out. And so far, obviously Guntersville is the only event, but in this one too, we did 10% versus the 20% or the 30 places that it was. And this one pays out really, really good compared to last year. It's a 90% payout though. It's Bass is a 80-20 split because it's an event management company, so they have to make money to do it. But in the championship, they cut their 20% to 10%. So we're paying a 90% payout in this one. So.
Well, that's
excellent.
That's fantastic.
That's exciting.
I know the first time I had you on, Steve, we were talking about the very first Bassmaster Kayak Series event ever.
Logan Martin. Yeah.
Yes, and Logan Martin. Remember, it was up, and the guy, I don't remember who it was. Mark Smith, is that?
Jim Davis.
Jim.
Hey, another nondescript common name, Jim Davis.
Jim Davis won. Actually, he was spy baiting.
Yes. Yeah.
Spy baiting in the only clear water he could find that was coming in off a cow pasture. Because it was so up. It was a fantastic story, Brad. It's just a fantastic story. He had his kayak
cool.
almost on the land, and he was casting over to this inflow from a cow pasture. And believe it or not, that water was clearer than any other water he had found. And the bass were stacked up in there, but they weren't that willing to bite. So he spy baited them up. What a great story.
Yes. So far, it's been kind of neat. Each winter, we had him, and then Possum Kingdom was Mark Pendergraph, doing the crankbait at the boat ramp, that chunk that was sunk, submerged there. And then last year, Siddiqui, he found a road bed on Lake Russell and was working that submerged, structure or what have you there. And so far, I like that there's been just a pretty good pattern for them to be able to replicate a story like you said Jim had. So we'll see about Chickamauga. This is going to be wide open. This is technically a wintertime championship, I guess you'd say, but we're getting into the spring here. We got a super early spring this year. I feel like the daylight's coming sooner than normal. I can't prove that, but my life feels like it. But Chickamauga, they're going to eat. Yeah, they're going to eat. It's a pre-spawn. They're moving. Yeah. So if we can get some warmth, they'll be rolling.
The big girls will be moving. Yeah.
Big girls. There's 10-pounders in Chick.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what's your length record? And it could be broke even before you tell me. Chick might break it because there are monsters in that lake.
Yeah, we had Chris Lowe. Funny story. We had our grassroots club, Tennessee Valley Kayak Anglers. We had a tournament. We break it down. We fish 2 or 3 ramps, not an entire lake, because we fish 9 events. So we had an event out of a certain part of the lake, and AJ McWhirter and them had just moved down to our area, so he was in it, man, and he'd gotten in a groove. He was catching some pretty good fish. We were fishing in the evenings and stuff, in a Fishers of Men tournament and all that, and he was on them pretty good. And we're a 3 fish limit, and he had, I think, 60 or 61 inches and didn't win. Chris Lowe got a 25-incher that tournament.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think that's our record for Tennessee Bass Nation, and any grassroots on Chick is a 25-incher. So now we had one tournament. The Knoxville Club came down and fished while we were out of town, and there were 2 or 3 10-pounders caught in that tournament alone. Yeah, and this was like a February muddy water rainy tournament, and they were shallow too. They were 2 or 3 foot of water, and they just,
Wow.
that's the unique thing about Chickamauga. Right now, there's plenty of social media to go around, and they're catching fat ones. They're loaded. So when you catch something, you're gonna feel like you're pulling in a spongy brick, but it's gonna be a big one. So
yeah,
a spongy brick. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's other than summertime, like the bigger fish I've ever caught in cold water, which is my favorite way to fish, lipless, jerkbait, umbrella rig, they've not been like a hammer. It's just felt it load up, and it was kind of spongy, and then they just, then they start fighting. But it hadn't been that dump truck swim bait bite. So
seems like anything over 6 pounds, it's 6-pounders they're gonna battle with you, but
yeah.
Yeah, at first when you hook that, you're like, I got a drum. I got a carp.
Big old catfish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got those on Chick too, sad to say. I've destroyed a lot of treble hooks and umbrella rigs on catfish. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Something about the traditional chrome and blue Bill Lewis on Chick that the catfish just hammer. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually put it away one year. Yeah.
Up there in the Northland, I'm fishing lipless in the spring bite, and it seems like the 25-pound carp just love those lipless crankbaits. I don't know why. It's something I would eat a dough ball and corn.
Yeah.
Also wants to chase a fast-moving chrome lipless crankbait. I don't get it. It shouldn't be allowed,
Yeah, we should start harvesting all those fish like Asian carp to get them out of there, and just keep pumping Florida strand bass everywhere you can go. So
right,
I think it's about time to introduce some more of that to Chickamauga. We've taken a little bit of a downturn, just because of the pressure the lake gets, and no matter how good you are at fish care, you're going to lose fish when you have that many tournaments. And not everyone, is educated as you need to be on fish care. And, but all the bass trails on that lake do a good job. The anglers care about it because, it's just like trees, you got to have them. So if you want to fish, you got to have, healthy bass. But we've had quite a bit of a drop back due to some pressure, but which was a lot of what happened to Kentucky Lake. Not necessarily Asian carp but the summertime fish. All the people up there will tell you that in the summertime, until they went to reduction in fish and tournament limitations, the heat killed a lot of good fish. So
yeah,
we gotta find a way to throttle it back.
The LMB virus here in the summertime, it seems like Grand Lake of the Cherokees, it got hit hard a few years back, but it seems to be bouncing back now. So I'm glad to hear that Kentucky Lake is the same. And
those Asian carp, people thought the Illinois River was going to die. I lived a mile away from the Illinois River for 12 years. I just loved it. And that was the place that was hit the hardest, was right where I lived. And we thought, we're going to have to shut this fishery down. We're just going to have to stop fishing here. But then it seemed like they almost came to an equilibrium with all the other fish. And actually the saugers started eating the young of the year Asian carp, and they started growing bigger than we have ever seen
them. They would eat the fingerlings of the Asian carp?
Yes, they would. They
wow.
found out that they were doing that. And I mean, we started getting that saugers with just engorged bellies. It was, they look a lot. They look a lot better on saugers than they do on people. I'll tell you what. And they have bellies like that. But Steve,
yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so you have the championship next week, but where's the next stop on the Bassmaster Kayak Series Trail?
After that, we're going to Lake Hartwell, a lake that's becoming one of my favorites. I got to do some fishing on there. We went up there for the Bassmaster Classic, myself and Ryan Lambert. We were working the dugout bait and tackle booth and with Hobie, and I've done some Georgia Bass Nation stuff up there, and Vinny Ferrer and them run the Queen City club up there too. But I've gotten to get up there and fish, and I did the Hobie College Bass Open Series Championship up there, and so I got to fish quite a bit that week up there poking around, and I love it. I love Lake Hartwell. It's obviously on everybody's list to put tournaments on nationwide. So look to have a really good tournament there. That'll be tournament number 2, following the Gunners one at 234. So we could push 200 there, because the South Carolina and North Carolina essentially fish like one state, to be honest with you, because of Benny and the unity they've all created up there. So we could have a really, really large turnout there.
And how about after that?
After that, that's April. May, there's so much going on in May with boat tournaments, and because got to keep in mind, when we do my schedule, I try to deconflict with the elites and the opens in college as much as I can, so that we can get coverage on the website, because the Bassmaster website gets 2-3 million views a month, and so that's a huge resource to have for me for advertising growing into the future. So anyway, with all of that going on, we've got a couple of big KBF, a Hobie, kind of back to back in all of those. And so I just felt like I didn't want the angler to have to drive to, one state and then try to hurry up and get back to make the KBF or the Hobie. And so we decided to skip May, because we got Memorial Day and Mother's Day in there too.
Right.
So yes, you got to honor those two, definitely. So we skipped May. So after Hartwell in April, the first weekend of June, we'll be on Possum Kingdom.
Oh.
Yeah, we're going back there. And I was surprised, coming into this late, I was behind the 8 ball building a schedule, which in hindsight turned out to be a blessing, because I had everybody's roadmap to look at. So I knew where to dodge and dates to deconflict, instead of the challenge of putting together a schedule. If it's the 3 of us and we each run our own club, then we've got to communicate. And so while I've got this one working, you may get one booked when I'm very close. So now I got to start over, so, but essentially with those 2 already being booked, I was able to look. And when I called around down in Texas, I got a hold of the Texas Team Trail Series, and I was talking to them, the boaters, and man, every one of them were just excited. They were like, man, we've been waiting on y'all to come back. It's been 2 years. And I reached out to that chamber, and they had lost contact that they had at Bass, and they were excited immediately. And as it would have it, they're booked except for the weekend that I needed. So it was amazing to be able to get, it was just like, it fell right into place pretty easily. So we're excited to get back down there. They want us there. Texas has a huge kayak population. That, very supportive of everything that comes that way. Then when we're done there, to deconflict, we'll move around. I wanted to do one more in June, but like I said, to deconflict, we landed the July the 8th weekend. We'll be in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Nice.
On the Mississippi River, doing 7, 8, and 9. I know those get fished a lot, but there's a reason for that. And then, really wanted to skip the summer months. just the nasty, ugly, hot weather. Let people finish up their family vacations. And by then, the way the schedules are stacked, Hobie and KBFs are pretty heavy. And I didn't want people to have to choose between fishing at a Bassmaster event and chasing the Angler of the Year in one of those other two clubs. So with us only having one more event left on the schedule, I decided to skip all the summer, let those seasons end, and we'll do our season ender first weekend of October on Susquehanna.
Ooh. It would still be decent weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Native Watercraft did the Big Bass Power Hour up there last October, and there were a blue million fish submitted. So it was everybody's excited. As soon as I started reaching out up there, everybody was like, Hobie hit it really good 2 years that they've been there. There was another series went up there and did really well, but everybody was like, man, if you can come in the fall, like October again, like we did, do that. And so it worked out really good. So,
man, smallmouth bass in the Susquehanna.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I get to treat that. I get to treat myself on that one. I'm going to go up kind of early and fish, some of the out of bounds water with Jeff Little. Let him show me how to catch them the right way. So, yeah.
Man, that's one thing I miss about living in the Northland is smallmouth bass.
Yeah, we've got them down here. We got some pretty good bass fisheries for smallmouth in Tennessee. We do, and so that's just something I've learned. Now I can actually go out and target them, but it took me about 5 trips to catch 2 fish. So I'm still not great at it, but I'm getting it figured out. I can go with someone that know, like Adam Reiser. I fish a lot with Adam Reiser, and my buddy, Lambert. He fishes a lot. So when we go, we catch them. We catch them really good. But they're there tutoring me. They're showing me how, and so pretty lucky there to know those people.
And with this job, it's a lot less stress to go fish for fun than it is to fish the tournament and try to figure it out.
Yeah, it is. And thankfully, thanks to, the good Lord, my wife watching out for us, I was able to leave my normal job, which has always been chemical plants and maintenance. And this is what I do full time now is tournament manage and work for Dugout Bait and Tackle. So
there you go.
Yeah, man, it was scary. Yeah, it's
scary. I bet that was terrifying.
Yeah, man, I've been a clock puncher my whole life. I've had really good jobs, fortunately, and to walk away from that as a man, it was just kind of like, what are you doing, man? And my son owns a hardwood flooring business, and then again, Lambert and I have been friends pushing 20 years, and he's just like, man. If you've got the ability to do what you do and your wife's on board and you guys are good where you need to be in life, just give it a spin, man. I can always find another job somewhere, So, and the reassurances I got from Bassmaster, like, I had the opportunity, I helped set it up in year 1 and ran a couple of events and, year 2, I just didn't have the time off from work to dedicate to it because, it was easy to see that, you needed to be able to buy into each event, to give it what it needs, that consistency. And I couldn't do it. So I stepped away because it was, I would just keep trying to do too much, even though I couldn't. And then, we got Tennessee and Georgia Bass Nation off the ground and it got successful and they reached back out and, we negotiated a contract and come up with some things and it still just wasn't right for me. And then I, about 4 months later, reached back out and we started talking about, other candidates and this go around, it was just a little different, little different people I was talking with. And, I think it had clicked for them, because they're great at what they do. Obviously it's the industry leader, but they didn't understand how we operate and they run so fast and so lean, it's not a huge staff down there. No one really has the time to sit down and look at everything we do. Well, we started having the difficult and long conversations on the phone. And as I was doing that with Chris Bowes and Hank Weldon, I was like, guys, I want to do this. I really do. I feel like you guys are in and they're all in. And so I was like, if you would be willing to vet this one more time, I'd like to discuss it again. And thankfully they were. And we just hit the ground running, and we threw a schedule together. We got with, Hobie and KBF and got some rules unified the best we could. And we've got a plan for, next year already in place. I'm already working on a schedule, looking to separate the championship from the classic so that we can have our own standalone championship. Because the classic is so busy. It's so enormous.
Busy.
It's so enormous. They're doing the best job they can getting us involved in it, but it's almost impossible because it's nonstop for them there. I guarantee not very many people have fun running that classic because it's so busy. But when it's done, you've got that labor of love, that feeling of accomplishment. So I know, I've been a part of backstage of the one. And then last year, me and Lambert, we were pretty hands-on at the South Carolina one, and so we're we had 3 people from our Bass Nation stuff make the stage, so that stuff's working.
Nice.
I don't know if anybody, if any anglers have reached out to say, I want to say all 3 major tournament directors, and I'm gonna name them: the AAKS and Hobie and you guys. I really commend you guys for getting together and unifying some rules. I don't know if anybody said good job for that, but I think that is an amazing accomplishment for the angler and for you 3 tournament trails. And I just want to say high five and good job.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, we've had some good and bad feedback, and again,
I know.
some of it, yeah, that's with everything. It's just like coming up with a schedule. You can't make everyone happy, and but I feel like there wasn't much regression. Few things, and again, we'll tweak these again next year because there's already some things that we see, that maybe we didn't go far enough on, or maybe need to cut back a little bit. And so, yeah, but you're right. I appreciate you saying that because at the end of the day, kind of like our pre-fishing thing, Bass had one way. The other clubs didn't have a pre-fishing rule, so they adopted one. And I thought, well, they weren't going as strict as mine, as Bassmasters were. But then I got to thinking, I need to sacrifice how I feel about pre-fishing and unify, because what if you just got through fishing Caddo and then you turn around and you're going to go fish Lake Hartwell Bassmaster? Well, you may in your mind pre-fish like you're fishing the Hobie and get disqualified. So I don't want that to happen. So I was like, you know what? This one's very important because it can get you disqualified. We need to just make it the same across the board. And so it's a good one. It's a good one because
it is.
I had to pre-fish the weekend before. I never could pre-fish the week of a tournament. Anything I traveled for, I couldn't fish that week because I didn't have time off from work. So I typically would do a call-in sick day on Friday. So I would leave Thursday night and drive, sleep, and maybe get a couple of hours on Friday if I was lucky. But then, there's people that need, they can't do the weekend because of family thing, but they can do a Wednesday, Thursday before a tournament. And so it's all cookie cutter for everybody. But yeah,
right.
I think we ended up landing on it pretty good.
Yeah. Yep. I know, I believe me, I know you can't make everybody happy. I try. It's not going to happen. Same with you guys. It's just not going to happen.
The harder you try.
For you 3 guys to come together and get that, even a base, like you said, to have ideas for next year is commendable.
Yeah, good. I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll just keep at it,
Yep.
Well, we're coming up on the 30-minute mark.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else either of y'all would like to say?
I just want to thank you podcast guys for giving us a platform to do this, because I can go on the Bassmaster page or my own page or Tennessee or Georgia Bass Nation or Dugout, and eventually what I put out, it's kind of like I run the pro staff for Dugout. We don't do a ton of posting because you become white noise,
Yes.
so I can do a podcast every 2 days of my own, and it's just going to eventually people are going to stop looking at it. But if I can go on 5 or 6 of these that you guys put on, and every time what I take from them is you two give different perspective than the last one I was on. And so, I take that into account. I put it in the database, and, about 1% of it I'll remember. But somewhere we land on that perspective, because for me, my biggest fear is somebody not having a fun, good tournament. That's what my job is. I feel is to, I don't know, to kind of just sort of bring you into the house, and put on a good event for you to enjoy. And so in order to do that, I have to understand what it is that you like and don't like. And then I have the fundamental base of what's right and wrong. And then after that, we can tweak everything else. So,
yeah.
Well, Steve, I realize you're a very, very busy man, particularly this time of the year. Thank you so much for coming on the
100%. Thank you.
podcast.
Yeah, appreciate it, Brad. And like I said, I think we saw each other more recent than because I actually did get to fish and qualify for a TOC, and I saw you there. But I thought we saw each other last year or the year before somewhere. Golly, where was it? Did you fish the Hobie Chick event last year?
Yeah. Yep.
That was where. All right, that was it. That's where I saw you. Yep, I knew it was pretty recent.
In the downpour, in the hardest rain I've ever been in. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, and I'll be back anytime. Anytime something happens newsworthy and you want to chat about it, just give me a shout.
Absolutely, we appreciate it. Maybe bring you on next in a couple of weeks with the champion from your championship.
That would be
okay,
awesome.
Man. Appreciate that. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
We'll have somebody with that big blue trophy.
Yeah, yeah.
Recap. Love doing recaps.
We always like to let you do shout outs too. You got any shout outs?
Yeah, man. I want to obviously, like I said, you guys. I want to just thank all the grassroots stuff that support everything that we do. I obviously work for Dugout Bait and Tackle. We do a lot of sponsorship for anglers, grassroots clubs, Bass Nation clubs. Bassmaster for buying into letting a kayaker jump on board and take hold of it and run it. And like you mentioned, the KBF, All American Kayak Series, the Hobie BOS. And, even though we all are competing against one another for you guys to come and fish with us, there's a unity there too. It's a respectful competition. And I want to thank all of them for being able to do that too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And you got one more shout out, your buddy's restaurant, and you can go eat.
Oh yeah, we're eating right now. Me and Lambert's meeting some buddies at a feed table, Chattanooga Feed Co., Chattanooga Feed Table. It's got about 5 different names, but it's an amazing place to eat in Chattanooga.
Sweet.
Awesome. Have fun, Steve.
Thank you, Steve,
right, see
so
y'all
much. Tell Lambert hello.
I will.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into this edition of the Bassin Magazine podcast. Guys, don't forget, Bassin Magazine is the official magazine of the Weekend Angler. With that, I'm going to end the podcast, and thank you so much for another Bassin Magazine podcast, Brad.
Thank you.
And have fun, guys. You only get to do this once.